when we are what do you say, when we are identifying scales for FMEA, especially while we are doing some procedure and we want to determine scales for FMEA. Now here in FMEA, it is more or less similar to our risk analysis, but in FMEA we have two parts. Okay, one is FMEA and second one is FMECA. We can use either of these things. FMEA is failure mode effect analysis and FMECA is failure mode effect criticality analysis. Where this criticality analysis is there, we use some sort of mathematical model. We use some sort of mathematical model in order to quantify your risk. You want to quantify your risk, that is why you are using FMEA. But in HERA, it is semi-quantifiable, or you just do it as a qualitative risk analysis. Okay, so why are you giving the scale? Okay, I feel that this is the best suited, so I am giving it. So it is quantifying. You are just quantifying based on your experience, observation, and you might think that okay, this is what the standard says, I am just following it. So that is quantifying your risk. But so that is qualitative analysis. Okay, but when you are quantifying a risk, you need certain numbers. Okay, so FMEA is FMEA can be used as a semi-quantitative analysis, as well as you can do complete quantitative analysis. When you are going for a complete quantitative analysis, then you can use FMECA. But if you want to go for semi-quantitative analysis, you can go for FMECA. Okay. So, why are we connecting this FMECA, FMEA? Here it is clearly given, right? FMEA is failure mode effect analysis. So, we are going to take each and every failure mode that can happen. Okay? We are trying to identify each and every failure mode that can happen, and we are analyzing its effect. We are analyzing its effect. So what happens when we are analyzing the effect? We know that it might cause process safety issue, it can cause production issues, it can cause quality issues. Okay, so there are all these things can come out in FMEA. Okay, so now can we use HAZOP instead of FMEA? Where do you use HAZOP? Where do you use FMEA? HAZOP, see, every study in a process hazard analysis has its own unique feature. Okay, like in HAZOP is hazard operability, where we find deviation. So we are only concentrating on the deviation. Okay, because of this deviation, what failure can happen? That is what we are determining in HAZOP. But in failure mode effect analysis, we know that this failure will occur. We know if there is a machine running, we know that the failure will occur, and we are going to analyze the effect because of that failure. So more or less, HAZOP can be used for your processes. Okay, processes, any sort of process you can do where you are going to identify the deviation. Identifying the deviation is important in HAZOP. But in FMEA, what is important? That we will discuss. In FMEA, we have three things. Okay, similar to risk analysis where we are finding probability and severity. In FMEA, we are identifying three things. One is probability, second one is severity, and third one is detectability. Okay, so we have three things. One is probability, one is severity, one is detectability. Okay, fine. Why are we going to do this? We are going to do this because we have to find RPN number, that is risk priority number. Now Why do we need to categorize RPM? Why do we need to calculate RPM number? See, in risk, in our risk matrix, we have identified or categorized the risk as high, medium, and low. Similarly, with the RPM number, we are going to prioritize the risk. Here, the name itself indicates that it is a risk priority number. So, we are going to prioritize the risk. If it is high risk or medium risk, we are trying to get it into low. If it is a low risk, then we can make some minor changes to avoid some sort of incidents, but it is not that really required. Okay. So here, if it is a high probability, high RPM, okay, we have high RPM, medium RPM, low RPM. High RPM, we need to take immediate action, because any sort of failure with high RPM number will have a greater effect on the process. Whereas the medium RPM will have a medium effect, but it can be resolved, it doesn't occur too fast. Okay, so that is why we are calculating this RPM number. Okay, so now here what is important? This detectability is important. In hazard, deviation is important, identifying the deviation is important, but in FMEA the detectability is important. Now you should understand clearly how and when we choose HAZOP and when we choose FMEA. So, when there is a process variable, what are the process variable? For example, say pressure, temperature, flow, volume. All these things are all these things are process variables. Now, how do you identify deviation in pressure?
Pressure gauge, if there is if we need vacuum but there is a pressure difference.
Yeah, you have pressure gauge to identify the deviation, right? So if it says the pressure is less, you have an instrument and it sends the signal to control room and it says that your pressure is low or high, or it is constant. So we always look for deviation with the pressure gauge. But what if the pressure gauge cannot detect? Why it cannot detect? Pressure gauge is meant to identify the pressure, right? Why it cannot detect?
Corrosion, like if inside is corroded.
Many factors, okay, not one, two. See, for example, if the pressure gauge is, for example, its sensitivity, we call it sensitivity of an instrument. If the sensitivity is very, very low, okay, it can change minor fluctuations also. But if the sensitivity is not good, it will not be able to identify smaller fluctuations. So that can lead to
Deviation.
deviation is something where we, okay, say for example now deviation, okay, say we allow plus or minus 0.01 or 0.2 psi. So this is the deviation you have accepted, I will allow, okay. Say for example there is a 20 psi flow, okay, I will allow till 20.02 psi or you can say 19.08 psi. So this range of deviation is allowed, okay. But when it comes to quality, okay, when it comes to quality, now I say I won't allow deviation more than plus or minus 0.1 psi. I'm just giving an example, okay, not exactly it is done. So in quality, if I say I want only plus or minus 0.1 psi as a deviation. So for the same example of 20 psi, okay, or also let's just say I want only 0.05 psi variation, then your range is too critical, 0.05 to 19.995. This is your range. You are into a tighter range now, okay. But now the pressure gauge sensitivity is, it can only detect the changes of 0.1 psi. It can only detect the changes of 0.1 psi. It is not too sensitive to identify 0.05 psi. So here you are able to find out the deviation as per your HAZOP. But as per the quality, you are not able to identify this 0.05 psi. The sensitivity of the instrument is not that good. So here what happens to your detectability? It is good or it is bad. The detectability is bad. So now what we are doing here in FMEA is, now we have to increase the sensitivity of the equipment to make sure that it can detect this 0.05 psi. That means the equipment should be, the instrument should be capable of detecting 0.01 changes. Okay, so accordingly we will upgrade the device. This might be very costly because it is too sensitive to check, right? So this can be identified through FMEA. Now you understand the difference when to use HAZOP, when to use FMEA. So it depends on the detectability. Here it depends on the deviation of the process. Okay.
So deviation is more in the in the pressure in the variables. So we use HAZOP.
I mean, if it is allowed, say that is what. If it is allowed, okay, say now this deviation I am accepting, it's no problem. See, because why this deviation is important? In HAZOP, what happens? For example, if there is a pipeline, if there is a pipeline which can withstand the pressure of 20 psi, but is it designed to withstand 20 psi pipeline? It will be designed more. Okay, it can withstand like up till how much? 2.5%?
Yeah, 25%.
25% design factor is there, safety factor is there, all these parameters we will check and we will make sure that it can withstand more PSI, right? So, HAZOP is always done from the early design stages. So, there itself we can understand that the pipeline can withstand this pressure or cannot withstand the pressure. So, we will make sure that it has a better safety margin or the safety range which can withstand this particular pressure. Okay, right. But here in FMEA, what happens is the minute changes can affect the production quality and safety of the process. Especially FMEA is best suited when we are working upon a machinery. Okay, now for the same pipeline example, can we use FMEA? No. Why no? Because this is not an instrument. Okay. If it is an instrument, then we can detect the risk. Okay, but if it is not an instrument, then we cannot detect, right? So you use HAZOP when there is a process, okay, and you know the exact margins of what to do, and you are just checking if it is going more or less, simple. Okay, but FMEA is a more detailed study of an instrument, machine, or an apparatus, or the process itself, even the process itself, where it takes to the minute details of the process. Okay, so the whole aim is to see whether we can detect that risk. Why it is important to detect the risk? If you know that yes, we can detect the risk, and if we can detect the changes, we can act immediately. If we cannot detect the changes, what will happen? We cannot act, right? We cannot act on the changes so fast. So that is the difference. This is predetermined. This is always running. It has always predetermined. You do the process, once everything is done, finish. But in FMEA, you always constantly see that the process is in this loop. Okay, here once you have done the HAZOP, you know all the control measures, you know what the devices to be installed. Once it is installed, you will only get back to HAZOP when you have some process changes, or when you think that this is not sufficient. But in FMEA, okay, you need to keep on tracking these values all the time. For example, now we need more production. The previous SOP states, so for example, if you are having a 2000 a bottling plant which can as an example, if we say we are having a production capacity of 200 bottles per day, okay, 2000 bottles per day, but in our production what we are doing, we are only preparing 1000 bottles per day. Okay, we can still run the machine to its extent limits, but we are not doing it because there is no need. the production demand is not there. Now suddenly the production demand increased double. But what will happen to the machine? Can it withstand or not? So we have to keep constant track of these limits. Okay, so these limits, when we have designed once we have done this FMEA, we have to keep it in SOP that it should not extend this beyond these margins. Similarly with HAZOP, if any sort of limit is determined, then we have to put these limits in SOP and make sure that the limits are not gone beyond. Okay, right. Now, fine. Now, how do we do the scaling? Normally, we have seen scales of 1 to 5 in risk matrix, but here we will have the scales of 1 to 10. Okay, 1 to 10. So always remember one thing, the scales of 1 to 10 for probability and severity can be same for all the process. For any process you take, you have a standard procedure for FMEA. You are doing this procedure, you are doing the study. Okay, the probability and severity for the procedure is always same, but the detectability factor changes. Okay, how it changes, why it changes? Now the scale is same 10, scale is same 10, but even this changes. Okay, the severity, everything changes. Okay, I like to say everything changes. I don't want to keep it same. Why I don't want to keep it same? Okay, for example, now you have an FMEA procedure for the whole company, it is same, but this probability, severity and detectability you have to change according to the process. Why you have to change according to the process? Because, see, for example, okay, say this is your pressure gauge, this is your pressure gauge, and it is going into your say blender. Okay, blender to mix. You have an electrical motor here, electrical motor, and this is your blender. Okay, for example, say there is 2 raw materials coming inside into the blender, so we have 2 separate lines coming. Okay, there is some other process involved in this. Okay, let's just take, there is one more process, weighing and sending. You can just say weighing and sending. Now, when we are analyzing this part of FMEA, okay, what do we have? It's only the flow, right? It is pipeline, so it's only the flow and volume. It's only the flow and volume. See, now, okay, here we are weighing and filling. Okay, we are just weighing and filling, or else I'll just do it in a simpler way. We do the same thing. See, now there is a blender. Okay, it blends the material. Okay, and so this blender has to move, so there is an electrical motor, and this is your blender. Okay, into this we are sending 2 raw materials. Okay, and then there is one outline and there is a drain line, and this is your vent, for example. Okay, just representing it with walls. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so here what we are doing is we are, okay, raw material 1, raw material 2. So only, so let's just determine this raw material 1 for the process will take only 5 kg or 5 liters if it is liquid, and this will take some, for example, 10 kg. Okay, if what happens if it is more, the product quality will not be there, the batch will fail. Okay, so now we are trying to do study for this part. For example, in FMEA. Now here what happens, we have to identify the 10 kg and 5 kg properly. We have to detect whether the volume is exactly going, right? So if it is liquid, we have pressure gauges, or we can have flow meters, right? How much flow is there, it will determine. Accordingly, we will understand the volume also. Okay, so here we are determining flow and volume. Okay, now for flow and volume, what is the probability of risk? What is the probability that it will fail? Now for example, we are having here flow meter. Okay, we have two flow meters set here. Okay, what is the probability that flow meter will fail? We have too much different concept of how the instruments failure rates will be determined. We have mean time between failures, and we have all the cells and everything. So that's a whole lot different story. But here the manufacturer will give you that reliability of the particular component or the particular instrument. Now here they say that it will fail. Okay, it will fail only once every 50,000 hours of operation. So what is the probability that it will fail?
1 by 50,000.
Right. So 1 by 50,000. So this is in hours, right? This is in hours. It is more likely or very less likely?
Less like this.
Very, very less. 50,000 hours is how much? Right? 2 years? 3 years? I don't know. I will just have to calculate that depending on the number of operational hours. Okay? So, I will just take this as, okay, less. Okay, let's just keep the probability as less. Now, I have to determine 10 scales, 1 to 10. Okay? So, this is your second scale. Let's just take, this is your second scale of probability. Okay? Now the third scale of probability, I'll tell you what is the first scale. I would say if it is 1 by 50,000, I'll just make it double. 100,000 hours. Very less likely. Okay? Now here, the third scale, you can keep it as half of it. 25,000 hours. Just an estimate. Quantifying it, but at the same time, it has a certain reason. Okay? Now the pressure, this flow meter can be damaged because of the limits that we are pushing it to. For example, say it can work from minus 10 degrees to plus 50 degrees. Now what if it is exposed to 60 degrees centigrade? Its life will be reduced. So, but still okay, 25,000 hours is okay. So I say it is okay. I just take it as less only again. And next is 1 in 12500 hours, 12,500 hours. I'll take this as moderate. Okay, this is your moderate risk. Now, slowly your time is decreasing. What happens? Your failure rate is increasing. This failure rate is increasing because of many factors. Okay, so you have to determine those factors as well. Okay, now here next we have 12,500 divided by 2, 6,750.
6,250, sir.
Okay, 6,250
250.
hours. Are you sure?
Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so this is still your moderate risk. Okay, so now what happens? Now we are entering into dangerous zone, because I don't want my batch to be failed, because batch fails, what happens? The whole process, the time, the cost involved in it is more. Okay, so from here I want to keep it as high risk.
High risk.
Okay. So medium to high, it is turning. See, if we are having two to mediums, we can categorize it more beautifully. Just for the sake of understanding, I'm just keeping it moderate. Okay. So high risk, 3, 7 to 5 hours.
Yes, sir.
Again, high risk is how much? 1 divided by 3725 divided by 2.
3125, sir.
Oh, sorry.
3125.
3125. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 3125 divided by 2.
15, 6, 3125.
Okay. Let's just assume
1500 something.
1500 some change. Okay. Let's just assume 1500 hours. Okay. Keep it simple. 8. Now very high. 1 divided by 750 hours. Very high.
375.
375 hours. Now here
137, 137.5 something. 138.
hours. Okay. So this is very very high, or you can keep some possible explanation to this. Okay. Now we are having 10 scales. So here what is happening, that the instrument will fail in every 135 hours of operation. 137 is hours is how much? 5 days?
5 days.
5 8s are 40, 24 hours of operation, or let's just take 16 hours of operation. It is
within 1 week.
within 1 week, or let's just take 10 days. So every 10 days your plant is failing, means is the process safe? So the probability is very very high, right? Now, why I said we cannot use the same thing for when we are doing FMEA for this. Why? Because here we have an additional two components. What are those two components? Blender and an electrical motor. What is the probability of failure of electrical motor? It is different. It is not the same. What is the failure of this? In blender there is nothing, only one vessel and a stirrer, only these two parts. Okay, either the body of the blender has to be weak. If it is made of SS, it will be strong, the thickness, everything is strong, it is okay as long as the metal is not corrosive. But if what happens to this particular stirrer, it might break because of rugged usage, or it is not meant to spin at high RPMs, the blades are weak, the material used is of low quality, many factors. But like I said again, while doing FMEA, can we predict the probability of failure of this particular stirrer? Can we do it? We can do it if we have a sufficient data of stability, material strength and everything, but that's not possible all the time, especially in production process. It is not possible. So we will not be able to conduct any sort of FMEA on this particular thing. If you want to do conduct any part of thing on stirrer, go back to hazard. Okay, so here we can only do is the electrical part. Why? Because we know the exact failure and we know the causes. Okay, so there is a difference between hazard and FMEA. So if it is an electrical or a mechanical part, just we can go blindly with FMEA. If it is any process part other than mechanical parts or electrical parts or instrument parts, go with hazard. Simple. So we can even do for this, but it takes a lot of study, lot of data. I mean, that's just like wasting time. Until and unless, okay, you have a whole lot of time to connect it, yes, you can do it. Okay, but not recommended, but you can still do it. Okay, so for electrical motor, your probability might be something different. Once installed, it will run for 10 years. Continuous operation also, no issues. Only thing is you have to load it properly, maintain it properly, then it gives you a lifetime, right? So its probability is once in say, okay, 3 times more than this, 300,000 hours. Okay, that means its failure rate, I'm just assuming that it fails in once in every 30,000 hours, 300,000 hours, because of several reasons. Might be your capacitor is not proper, you have an over voltage, you have an over current, you have an overload, short circuit. Okay, these factors are there for the failure. So those are the other factors which will contribute its own probability. So now if we are determining the probability, severity and detectability for this one, can we use the same for this FMEA?
Yes.
So that is why the probability, frequency and detectability changes for every FMEA that we do. Okay, because in FMEA we are trying to quantify the risk. Instead of qualitative risk, we are trying to quantify the risk. Clear? Right. So that is why we have to take the process, and according to the process we have to prepare.
So like for every mechanical and electrical equipment, we use FMEA.
Yes, blindly we can go with FMEA. If it is a process where you cannot see, in a process what happens, you cannot determine the failure rate, right?
So
Failure.
like if in a process there is a like in a process, for suppose like air with a pressure of 5 pascals or so, if a process is like inside air to clean the equipment for at 5 psi. So if the next step means in the next SOP it goes like 10 psi based on some changes in air.
Yes.
So we'll do HAZOP again.
Yes, you have to do the HAZOP again.
Okay.
Yeah. See, when there is a change in process, okay, from 5 psi now you are increasing the air to 10 psi. The process change is there. So you have to go for HAZOP. Any sort of, see, you do this hazard analysis. When you do hazard analysis, you have some, some review points. When to review your hazard, or when to review your FMEA, when to review your hazard analysis, any type of hazard analysis. When there is a process change, when there is a parameter change, when there is a new equipment involved, and if it is an audit recommendation, if you have a legal changes, legal requirement, legal requires it, and there is a legislative requirement changes, you have to go for the whole review of hazard analysis. If there is an incident, okay, incident is there because we are not having adequate controls, right? As mentioned in our risk analysis or hazard analysis, those are not sufficient. So we had an accident. You have to review the whole process again, or that particular part where the incident happened. Okay, so these are the things that we need to take care of. Okay. Right, so now we are scaling probability. You now understand how to scale your probability in the scale of 1 to 10. Severity is more or less the same. High severe, light severe. So what is the possible effect it is going to give? The batch failure might be the possible cause, or it might cause injury to people, or it might cause damage to the environment. So depending on that, we will have the severity of 1 to 10. I'm not going to explain it in detail. And detectability. How do you scale detectability from 1 to 10? Now, if it is probability, 1 is better, or 5 is better, or 10 is better? Which is better?
1 is better.
Why?
Low probability means that will low probability of the accident it may happen.
Yes, it is having the low probability of accident happening, so we always prefer low probability. In severity, 1 is better, 5 is better, 10 is better. 1.
No.
Low severity, we always prefer low severity. But in detectability, which is better? 1 is better, 5 is better, 10 is better.
10.
Why 10?
More detectable, like easily detectable.
Yes.
I can act on it.
The more easily we can detect, the more quickly we can respond. Right? So that is why 10 is better. Okay. So here, what is 1? That means we are not able to detect that particular
Problem.
Okay. See here, make sure we understand the scales very clearly. Some say, no, that means your RPN number is high. With 10, your RPN number is high. Let me tell you very clearly. See, some people say, if probability and severity and detectability, your RPN number is P into S into D. Okay. So if the probability is 7, okay, severity is 8. What is your detectability?
Around 5 or 6.
5 or 6 is okay. It is medium detectability, right? But if the probability and severity is high, that means the detectivity is towards 5 to 1,
Okay, go.
approximately. Okay, 3. Now calculate 7 into 8 into 3, how much? Too much to calculate, huh?
168, sir.
Okay, 168. Now, what if we are having high detectability? We are having high detectability scale of 8. What is your probability?
It will be in low score.
Probability can be high. Because detectability is there, that doesn't mean that the incident will not occur. Okay? So, the detectability can be high, but the probability can be high. But we are going to give controls to it. Remember, 2 things. Okay? So, we are providing controls to it. Okay? So, always we have 2 RPNs. One is your initial RPN.
Yes.
Initial RPN is RPN which we are calculating without any controls or with some existing controls. Okay? And after that, we provide some control measures. Okay? We provide some control measures. After control measures, what we are trying to bring down? Your RPN number. So then that is your
Modified.
modified or residual or leftover risk or whatever you call it, it is still there. Okay, then your probability becomes 2. So once the controls is given, then your residual RPM, we can tell your probability is less and severity is still. Now what is your RPM?
96, sir.
96. So we have brought from 168 to 96 just by improving detectability. Okay? No, we should not say again 7 and 8. Because once the detectability is increased, now previously it was 3. Now we have increased. This is your initial one. Okay? This is your residual one. So previously when it was 3, we have improved the detectability and we have reduced the probability by adding controls. Okay? We have increased detectability from 3 to 8. Because of this, the probability is reduced to 3.
Sir, like means for a equipment, like for suppose let us take an example of motor. With the initial RPM, like failure is 7, like probability is 7. So after installing some control measures or doing some maintenance, the probability will be decreased to 3.
Yes.
Okay, so the severity.
See, even though, see for example, there is an electrical shock. Okay? No matter what you do, shock, the severity is same. Either you are going to die or you are going to get burned. High voltage, right? But we are adding controls. We are adding controls to reduce the severity. What controls we are using? Either you have proper insulation, maintenance, inspection, use rubber gloves. We are using all these controls, so the severity will be less. Okay, we are trying to bring down the severity also. In some cases, even though in the worst cases, something happened, okay, then you cannot do anything. In safety, there is always that extra risk. Okay, we cannot say we can implement 100% of safety. Even though after implementing all these controls, all this analysis, there might be something which we would have missed or something which is out of scope. For example, act of God, you cannot control it, anything can happen at any time. So there are certain possibilities where the severity is again high, but with the controls that we are putting in, we can reduce the probability and severity. Okay? Right. Now, here always understand one thing, in detectability, if it is detected by naked eye, human error is very high always. Human error is very high. So if humans are there to detect anything, So it is least detectable or high detectability?
Least, I said.
Sorry, least detectability. See, you cannot see microorganisms with your naked eye, right? But you can see those things with instruments, better instruments, right? So that is the difference of detectability. You have to scale it. Again, this changes with the process you are identifying. Okay, now you have understood?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, what RPM number should we consider, sir? Like the limit ranges of RPM?
Right. Make it a simple classification. Okay, similar to our risk matrix, how we have determined. Now we have three scales. Okay, we have probability scale of 1 to 10, severity scale of 1 to 10, detectability scale of 1 to 10. So 10 into 10 into 10 is how much?
1000.
1000. So we have a range of 1 to 1000 in RP. Okay, I simply say, okay, let's just take probability is like 3, okay, and severity as 3 and detectability as 3, okay, or we'll just take it better detectability, we will take it as 7. How much you are getting? I mean, it's just
63, sir.
63, okay, and for example, let's just take 5, 5, 5.
125, sir.
Worst case scenario, 10 into 10 into 1, 100, right? So it might not be 1, like some 2 or something like that, then it goes to 2. Okay. In initial RPM, if there is good detectability but still the probability is high, severity is high, because the controls are not there. Okay. In those factors, what happens is this detectability can go to 10, that can be from 1000. Okay. So if it is all fine, I consider it as middle line, simple, right? So I take 1 to 65 as low RPM, more than 65 to less than 125 as medium RPM, and anything about 125 to 1000 I take as high RPM. So what are we going to do this? Okay, how are we going to use this? I already told you it is RPM, risk priority number. Now we have some 10 risks we have identified. Okay, or to put it simply, it is 10 failure modes we have identified. Okay, so out of 10 failure modes, okay, one failure mode RPM number is 70, 80, 60, 125, 180, 300, 60, 40, 450 and 20. Just taking it around here. Now, out of these things, how many failure modes are having high RPM number?
From 5 to 6, sir. 5
One.
to 10.
2, 3. Right? 125 is medium.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is high RPM? More than 125. It is not 65. 125. Okay. That means 180, 300, 450. We are only having 5, 6 and 9, which are having RPM number of 180, 300 and 450, which needs immediate action. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to put controls for this particular high RPM to reduce the RPM from 180 to less than 65. Until we bring down the RPM to less than 65, we keep on adding controls. If it is less than 65, what happens now? This initial RPM, we are getting it under 65. right? Now, medium RPM. Next, first is high category is done. Now, medium RPM, we have 1, 2, 3 median RPMs, 1, 2, 4. We are trying to add again controls to make sure that the RPM is less than 65. Now we have turned this initial RPM number to less than 65. Then your process is
Safe.
not completely.
Not.
There is still risk, but it is all under acceptable risk. Okay. So until then we keep on adding controls, and that is how we use the scales. We use FMEA. Okay. FMEA is a whole different.
Concept.
Because we are using mathematical models, different mathematical models, okay? So, if we are just working on those things, we need separate tools, okay? But for FMEA, this is sufficient.
So like for a process, if I'm doing FMEA,
Yeah.
then I'm calculating the initial RPM number. So if I'm getting the values from 0 to 150, like, 0 to 150 or 0 to 200 now. Okay, sir. So can I prioritize the risk from 0 to 50 will be low and 50 to 100 will be medium range? And,
No, because see, this RPM's risk is determined. In your process, you have already determined that if this is the thing, I am going to use it this way only.
so it's predetermined.
It's predetermined.
Okay.
No matter what your probability is changing, but your category of RPM is not changing. Okay? The category of RPM is not changing. Understood?
So like 1 to 65 will be low, 65 to 125 will be medium, and more than 125 is high priority.
High priority, high risk.
So it's determined. I shouldn't take my own thing like
You can do it. You can do it. Say, I told you, no. Now, because of this, I just want to judge that it is medium. So, if you want to keep, you can keep like, okay, even below 200 is acceptable. That you have to justify. You have to justify why you are taking this particular things. Okay? Understood?
So like if the detectability is more and risk and severity and the probability and the severity is low, I can prioritize that my detectability is high, so I just want to keep less than 200 is.
See, like I said, even though the detectability is high, okay, detectability is high. It is like 3 or 4, but that doesn't mean that your probability and severity is low. Why? Because we did not put these controls. We have to implement controls, but there are no controls. Even though, see, for example, now there is a flow wall. Okay? There is a flow wall. Now we know, see, for example, there is a level meter here. Level meter. Okay. Now I will write a simple program to my instrument stating that if my level meter, see, always when you are dealing with instruments, there is either 0 or 1. 0 is no signal, 1 is there is signal. Okay? If there is 0, that means the quantity has not reached this height. Okay? This height means the tank is having like 1000 liters. Okay? But if my level indicator says that it is 1, that means the level has reached 1000 liters capacity. So my level indicator has to send a signal to actuator, okay, to control the valve. Cut it off. Now my level is already filled. Okay? You got my point?
Yes, sir.
Now, for example, that is what happens. Your programming should be in this way if it is an instrument based thing. Okay, automatic. If it is automatic or automation, if you are implementing, then it has to be like that. Now here you have a level indicator. Having level indicator is good detectability. It is detecting that your level has reached. But what is the control? What it has to do? This is not there. Then what happens? Your likelihood and severity goes up. Okay, if this is there, that will come after control. Then your probability and severity is less. Okay, so that is why initial risk and residual risk we have to identify in FMEA. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so this is about FMEA.